Hi, Chris Shank with CASEIH here to talk about the 475, 41 foot, and 31 foot speed tiller floating hitch mode. First, we talk about the tractor hookup. I always like to see number one for the tires. When I pull back on number one remote, I want to see the machine raise at the tires. Number two, I like to see tilt up. Number three, I like to see the wings fold in when I pull back. And number four, when I pull back, I want to see the roller lift. Okay, so we take the machine out to the flat concrete area, gravel area, hard surface in the field, and level. We want to unfold it, and we want to take all four of those remotes and put them in float. The roller, the wings, the fore aft, and the wheels. Next, we're going to come over to the single point depth handle, the left side one for the wheels. We're going to adjust that that handle all the way down until it compresses the pin on the single point depth control valve. Next, we'll go over to the fore aft one. We want to make sure that there is a gap from the paddle to that single point depth control valve on the fore aft. That's going to allow the tongue of this machine to float up and down as I go over terrain. So after we set our single point depth valves for the wheels and for tilt, we come to the rear of the machine back at the roller cylinders. We're going to measure the rod gap that we have available to us, and then we'll look at the chart and determine the amount of collars that go onto this cylinder to fill up this entire gap. The settings between here and the single point depth control valves up in front of the machine will get our initial settings in the field to be roughly 2.5 to 3 inches deep out in the field, and our tracking of the machine behind the tractor fairly straight. These are our initial settings, and we'll adjust those in the field later on. Let's look at a couple other things that we would do for in-field adjustments, namely the wing downforce as well as clocking of the left rear blade. So on wing down pressure on a 475 unit, we look at the wing torsions here on the wing at the end of the wing cylinders. When we're operating in the field, we want to see that for hard surfaces and so on, when we want to penetrate, we want to preload these torsions by leaving a gap between the red area of the frame and the black area of the torsion frame holding onto the wing. Another infield adjustment is the last blade on the left rear corner of the machine. When I am going into the soil fairly deep in fall, 3 inches or so, I may want to come back and loosen up the bolts here at the frame mounting to clock this arm back a little bit. When I do that, I will not generate a valley past the pass. In the spring of the year though, if I'm going only a couple inches deep or so, I can probably get by with the blade going all the way in and feathering that soil back into that profile and run that blade back in this position here. So we just finished our initial settings for the machine. So we have it set for roughly 2.5 to 3 inches deep and the tracking fairly straight between our single point depth control valves as well as our roller settings. Now it's time to take the machine to the field and set a test pass. What we want to do is set the machine down to the single point depth control valve on number one. We want to take number two for the fore aft and leave it in float on the tractor, and run number four retracted so that the collars on the roller are contacted. We're going to go at 8 miles an hour on our guidance line until we get up to 8 miles an hour, and then we're going to stop. We're going to get out of the tractor and come and look behind the machine. If the machine is tracking straight, we're set properly there. If the machine depth is correct, we're set there and we can continue on our pass. If we see that our depth is incorrect, we can come up to our single point depth control valve on our wheels and we can turn it. Every turn here is 0.2 of an inch for depth, whether it's shallower or deeper. If our tracking is incorrect, we need to look at the relationship of the single point depth control valve up front as well as the collars on the rear of the machine. On this machine, as the rear blades are more in contact with the soil, they're pulling the machine to the left. And if the front blades are more aggressive in the soil, they're pulling the machine to the right. So I either need to shallow one or the other, or maybe both, or I need to go deeper with one or the other as well. For more information on setting the high-speed disc, please consult your operator's manual, the quick reference card, or your local CASEIH dealer.